Hey guys, okay, so I'm trying to make this quick as possible. I figured out what went wrong. I got a new computer like a couple of months ago, but I guess I haven't recorded anything on my computer via QuickTime. And when I went to do it this time, the audio wasn't turned on within the QuickTime player. Like it didn't know to use the internal mic. And I had no idea. And I sat there and recorded that 20-minute video. This is definitely not going to be 20 minutes. And you can submit your proposal by tomorrow night. And I would encourage you to go back and review what you submitted to make sure that you are on the right path. So remember that this document is accurate, but it has the wrong due dates. To see the correct due dates, look on a course calendar, and when I get to campus tomorrow, I will upload the correct document with the correct due dates. So we had the snow day, and then also my desktop in my office had Windows 7 and it needed to be updated to Windows 10. So when I went into work Friday, my the computer, right, not this monitor because the monitor was there, the computer wasn't there because IT took it to update it to 2010. So that's that. If I'm rushing through this, I apologize, and you can send me an email and ask me as many questions as necessary. I'm just going to stick to the most important parts and the basics. So, proposal one, you should talk about all the requirements of project one. This includes the literacy narrative, the interview with the scholar, and the presentation of your scholarly interview. The literacy narrative and the interview with the scholar are not connected in the sense that the content, like what you are going to produce, they shouldn't be related or shouldn't be talking about the same thing. The only way that they're related, there's two ways that they're related. Number one, they both fall into the category of a guide to college and college writing. Remember, we are hopping into this with ease and we are doing writing that is familiar to us. The second way that they're connected is that when you write your literacy narrative, you're going to be concerned about examining and unpacking your relationship with reading, writing, communication, language, literacy, all of that, right? And then when you do your interview with the scholar, you're going to be concerned with their relationship with writing, but specifically writing in a discipline. Feel free to talk to them about their relationship with literacy and communicating and all that good stuff. Your presentation, one of the main requirements is for it to be creative. There is no specific set way to present this material. The goal of the presentation is for us to learn from one another and to get a broader sense of what it means to write in a discipline, right? So if everybody finds someone within their prospective field that they're interested in getting into, we'll be able to learn about at least 20 different majors and career fields and conventions of writing and expectations of writing within our specific career field. A snapshot of this project is worth 15% of your final grade, 8 pages minimum, one presentation. The 8 pages are divided specifically between a literacy narrative and an interview with a scholar. So I will allow you to read this, but the most important part of this introduction is that our goal is to ask questions about how we write, why we write, and how writing and language affects us and others. And I hope that by reading Amy Tan and Albita Sutan's text, you could see how language affects an individual and affects those around them, right? And even if we were to think about Jamila Liscott's three Englishes, right? We would see how language had a personal effect on her, right? She felt like she was being attacked by someone telling her that she was articulate. So, by the end of this unit, students will be able to understand different rhetorical choices made when communicating and how context affects those choices. Furthermore, students will be introduced to academic writing within a variety of disciplines. So, again, these due dates are wrong. This is for the 50-minute class, not your class. And even though the due dates are wrong, they're not far off. Okay. Other important dates, these are also wrong. You will actually peer edit in Moodle. So let's just check that out and see what that looks like. Let me switch my role to a student. Don't forget the snow day lecture I posted here and then added the snow day writing assignment there. and that is just to get you to practice pretty much applying characteristics of narrative writing. Okay, so we need our course calendar. So we got that there. So we will do some examining of profile writing once we get to class on Thursday, and then we'll do a little bit of in-class writing workshop where you'll have all the time to ask all the questions and get all the clarification and brainstorm and write your introduction, and then erase it and then write it again, come up with a creative title, figure out the structure, all of that, right? But then when you go home, your homework is to submit your draft by Sunday, January 28th, and then respond to a minimum of 2 peers by Tuesday, January 30th. Remember, our dates are Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, right? Or should I say Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday? Sounds a lot better. So the directions for peer editing, if we were to go to week 2, technically I'll be week 3. Peer editing guidelines, you would read that. It's self-explanatory. It makes a lot of sense. And then here is where the peer editing magic happens, right? And you want to make sure, number 1, that you read the guidelines, and number 2, that you don't allow your insecurities of writing that you may have hinder your ability to help a peer. Because if you understand the directions, which you should, and if you don't, you should ask questions, you should be able to help your peer. You're not expected to fix their grammatical errors. You're not expected to fix their spelling errors, but you're expected to focus on content, right? Focus on cohesiveness. Can you understand what they're saying? If you can't, something's wrong, okay? So let's go back to project 1. So in short, the first portion of this assignment, which is the literacy narrative, we want to replicate what Amy Tan and Albeda Sutan and Jamila Liscott was able to produce. So students will write their own story based on their experiences with literacy, i.e. reading, writing, language, and even though this is not added there, you could focus on a specific word as well. In other words, you'll write a story about yourself as a literate person at a time. One time you can neither read nor write, and now many years later you are taking a composition class at a university. Good writing begins with good questions. So, how did you get here? What people, events, and literature shaped you as a writer? Right? What does writing in our books mean to you? So you don't have to answer both. You can focus on one or the other. When we talk about what does writing or language mean to you, maybe there's a specific word that you're passionate about, and it brings up positive memories for you, but maybe there's a word that frustrates you and causes you pain, right? And causes like specific pain. So I think I shared with you, if I were to do this assignment currently, I would write about the word ghetto, and I would talk about my relationship with ghetto and with the word ghetto and how it has transition and change, and I would unpack its variety of meanings and change the context. And what do you mean when you say that a name is ghetto? What do you mean when you say that somebody lives in a ghetto, right? What is the origins of the name ghetto, right? So all of that is important. How have I tried to redefine the word ghetto, right? And turn it into something positive more than shameful or exploiting. So the content here is just to get you to think about some things that you could write about. You are not expected to respond to every question and have this like dry essay or this formulaic, really, really rigid essay. This literacy narrative is an opportunity for you to be creative, for you to use your voice, right? For you to figure out who is your audience, who are you talking to, right? What tone do you want to use? Do you want to switch your tone, right? How do you want to structure it? So again, it reminds you about your audience, talks about the purpose right here, reminds us what the purpose of a literacy narrative is here, and kind of guides you on how to arrive at your thesis statement. And so again, here are some suggested topics. Not required. I want you to be as innovative as possible. As long as you're talking about literacy, it's okay. So for your thesis statement, you need to identify what the significance is of this event or event. You could write about a series of experiences that you have had with reading or writing. You may find that you may not come up with the thesis until the end because you want your thesis to capture the entire essence of your narrative. Minimum requirements is listed here. You guys, I think you're qualified to read that and go over that. Reminder, students who visit the writing studio can earn extra credit towards their assignment. Now, for the interview with the scholar, if you turn to page 15 in your textbook, the directions for the interview with the scholar assignment is there. We're going to just follow everything that it says. There's about 6 questions underneath to guide you, and then there's an example in the back of the textbook. The textbook example is wonderful, but for this purpose, we don't want to have, I said, then he said, then I said. I want you to write it in essay format. So if you click under Project One resources, you'll see sample interview write up, and then you'll also see how to write a profile or interview. So if you haven't scheduled that appointment with the person you want to interview, go ahead and do that. They don't have to be a professor, but they should be in a career field or a discipline that you wish to be in eventually, or maybe that you're thinking about being in. So if you click on the sample interview write up, let me save it to my desktop. It's already there. It's okay. Because when I recorded the 20-minute video, that was on silent. Yep. So you'll see that essay format, right? Not the interview format, but the interview is being incorporated into the essay format. Yours, of course, would be much longer, right? But here are some more questions, and these are really, really valid questions to help you. Why did you choose to interview this person? What is their experience writing in a discipline? This is what we care about, the whole idea of writing in various disciplines, okay? Something else important. So when you look at the how to write a profile interview, the one thing that it's going to say is you should research the person you're going to interview prior to talking to them. This is because you want to be familiar with what they've done, what they've written, and you want to come up with your own questions as well to ask them. Maybe you're curious about their writing process. Maybe you're curious about their writing struggles, right? Use all of that to talk to them about it. The grading rubric is here. It is specific. It is detailed. By looking through the grading rubric while you're writing, after you're done writing, you will be able to assess how well you've done. Okay, so take a look at that grading rubric. So, again, the proposal, you can talk about both the literacy narrative. You should talk about both the literacy narrative, the presentation, and the interview with the scholar. And the two are connected in the sense that they're both asking questions about writing and communication and language. The literacy narrative is super creative, whereas the interview with the scholar is a bit more structured. But you still can add a personality in the interview with the scholar. You still want to be descriptive. You still want to add detail. You still want to use your 5 senses. You still want to identify the setting, okay? And we'll look at some examples when we come to class on Thursday, and then we'll be able to, talk it through to talk about like expectations. While I have you here, I might as well remind you what your expectations are for class on Thursday. So by Tuesday, you should have read what are academic disciplines, and you should then complete discussion forum number 3, and then you should complete inside work page 11, right? And then don't forget the snow assignment, but really simple. And then here where it says identify a scholar to interview, it's literally just a reminder, hey, by today you should have found somebody that you want to interview, okay? So let's take a look at 2. All the resource list that you need is here. Brief lecture. I'm so glad I didn't use QuickTime for this because I would have been frustrated. And the task here. So these tasks need to be completed by Thursday. You have a whole 5 days, technically 4 days. And I'll see you in class on Thursday.